They gave my sister a brand new SUV. I just wanted help with college. Instead, I got labeled dramatic and pushed aside. My name is Emily, and this is how my family stole my house. But not before I made sure they'd never forget what I did next. Where are you watching this video from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I'd love to know where this story is reaching. It happened on a Saturday morning in Tampa. That sticky Florida kind of heat was already rising outside, but the real tension was stewing in my parents' dining room. My coffee had gone cold in my hands, but I hadn't noticed. Not with the spectacle that had just unfolded across the table. My dad, Michael, isn't usually a man of surprises, but this morning he stood with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes, holding out a shiny new set of car keys. My mom, Denise, clapped like it was Christmas morning. "For you, sweetheart," he said, and handed the keys directly to my younger sister, Lauren. Lauren gasped like she hadn't known, even though her phone was already out to film it for her Instagram story. "Oh my God, seriously, you got me the Lexus." "It's a necessity," Mom added quickly. "You need mobility, you can't Uber everywhere forever." I stared at them, not blinking, not breathing maybe. Lauren, she had just dropped out of her second college program in a year. No job, no plan. No shame, clearly. Meanwhile, I had been working nights and weekends, scraping together every cent I could to stay on top of my classes at the University of South Florida. And last night, I had come home to show them my tuition bill and ask if they could help, just a little. Maybe cover books, a single course. I hadn't even said it out loud yet. I opened my mouth. "I thought maybe." "We're not doing this again, Emily." Mom cut in with a sigh so sharp it felt rehearsed. "You always turn every happy moment into something about you." My jaw clenched. "I just need $2,000 to cover this semester," I said, forcing the words out evenly. "That's less than a down payment on that car." "You have a job," Dad said without looking at me. "You're resourceful. You'll figure it out." Lauren was already sitting in the driver's seat mentally, grinning as she spun the keys around her manicured finger. "Maybe don't be so dramatic, Em," she said sweetly, like she was doing me a favor by even acknowledging my voice. That word, dramatic, they used it like a hammer. Anytime I raised a concern or showed emotion that didn't align with their perfect picture, I was overreacting. "You gave her a car," I said quietly, "and I just asked for help getting through school." My mom shook her head like I'd insulted her. "This jealousy isn't healthy, Emily. Lauren's trying her best." I looked at Lauren. Pink acrylic nails, pouty lips, zero gratitude, and something inside me broke clean in half. Not loud, not obvious, just a silent, precise snap. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I sat there, sipping cold coffee and letting the silence hang heavy over the table. My sister stared at me like I was a bitter guest instead of her sibling. My father went back to his eggs like the conversation had ended. I had my answer. They didn't see me. Or worse, they did and still chose her. Something changed in me that day. I didn't know it yet, but the version of me that had tried to earn love with good grades and good manners died quietly over that breakfast. What grew in her place? Determination. And a brand new goal. I was going to get out of that house. I was going to earn my own freedom. And they would never be able to take that away from me, no matter what they tried later. If there's one thing about me they always underestimated, it's how stubborn I am when I'm quiet. 2 months after that breakfast, I was living in a college dorm 2 hours north in Gainesville, running on 3 hours of sleep, 2 cups of gas station coffee, and pure ambition. I hadn't spoken to my family much since. A few dry texts from Mom asking if I was eating enough, and Lauren tagging me in a photo with her car and some cringy caption like, "She believed she could, so Dad bought it for her." Cute, but I wasn't thinking about them. Not anymore. I was working. Mornings started at 5:30 with a shift at the student cafe, scrubbing burnt cheese off oven trays and pretending not to cry when someone ordered 6 cappuccinos right before close. Then lectures from 9 to 3. Then tutoring underclassmen until 7. Nights were either study marathons in the library or crashing at my job in the campus bookstore, where I could sneak in homework between restocking shelves. My dorm room was the size of a closet and smelled like ramen and dry erase markers. But it was mine. No Lauren barging in, no Mom sighing at my tone. Just me and my hustle, and weirdly, I loved it. Every A on a paper felt like a brick laid down in my foundation. Every dollar tipped into my savings account felt like a whisper of freedom. I kept a sticky note above my desk that said, "No one's coming, build it yourself." Was I exhausted? Constantly. Did I have full-blown conversations with vending machines at 2 a.m. from sleep deprivation? Maybe. But I also felt something I'd never felt back in Tampa. Pride. I wasn't begging anymore. I wasn't competing for scraps of attention from people who thought love meant guilt and conditions. I was setting the pace. And the finish line, that was going to be mine too. Still, there were hard nights. Like when I got sick and couldn't afford to miss work, so I packed tissues and cough drops and powered through. Or when I saw parents visiting their kids on campus with care packages and had to look away because I knew no one was coming for me. But there was this one moment I'll never forget. It was a Tuesday. I just finished a tutoring session, and I stayed behind in the lecture hall, too tired to move. I remember laying my head on the desk for a second, just to rest my eyes. And then I heard it. The janitor, Mr. Colby, humming to himself while mopping the back row. We'd talked a few times, mostly about our favorite sandwich spots. He paused when he saw me. "You okay there, bookworm?" he asked. I smiled faintly. "Just thinking about dropping out and becoming a barista on a beach somewhere." He laughed. You're climbing, I've seen you." That stuck with me. "You're climbing." No one in my family had ever said that to me, not even close. That night I walked back to my dorm with a slow, quiet sort of joy. The kind that comes when you realize the people rooting for you might not be the ones you expected, but they're still out there. And maybe that was enough. Graduation didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a beginning no one could touch. It was one of those Georgia days where the heat stuck to your skin like glue, but I didn't care. My suit was perfectly pressed. My heels were practical but fierce. And when I walked across that stage in downtown Atlanta, I wasn't just taking a diploma. I was reclaiming every word they ever used to dismiss me. Dramatic, jealous, too ambitious. No one clapped louder than me when they read my name, and I didn't need an audience. The job offer had come in 2 weeks earlier. A digital marketing firm. Starting salary that made me cry alone in the library when I got the email. I had a real path now. Health insurance, paid time off, a salary. It felt like I'd cracked open the world and found a door with my name on it. Within a year, I saved enough to do something wild. I bought my first car. It wasn't new or flashy. A gently used navy blue Lexus with a smooth ride and a sunroof I'd probably never use. But it was mine. Every payment earned through double shifts, freelance contracts, and saying no to every frivolous thing I used to dream about. I didn't even tell my family I was coming. I just pulled into their driveway late one Sunday afternoon. It was the first time I'd been back since college. The moment I stepped out, the Florida humidity hit me like a wall, but so did something else. Lauren's face at the window. She'd seen the car before she saw me. When the front door opened, she stood there with a single raised eyebrow and a smirk tugging at her lips. "Trying to show off now?" I didn't answer right away. Because in that moment, I saw it clearly. She wasn't teasing. She wasn't even surprised. She was threatened. Lauren had always been the star in our house, the one handed things under the banner of need while I was told to wait, work, and want less. Now I had something she didn't, not just the car, control, direction, self-earned peace. "Just visiting," I said coolly, lifting my bag out of the trunk. Her eyes didn't leave the car. "Must be nice." I walked past her into the house. It smelled the same, fabric softener and lemon cleaner, but the air felt heavier somehow, like the walls remembered too much. "Emily," my mom called from the kitchen. "You didn't say you were coming." "I wasn't sure I'd make it," I replied, setting my bag down carefully. "Just thought I'd stop by." She came out drying her hands on a dish towel, her eyes darting to the driveway. "That your car?" I nodded. She pursed her lips. Looks expensive." That was all. No congratulations. "No, I'm proud of you." Just a loaded silence and the ghost of a frown. Lauren stood behind her, arms crossed, still watching me like I'd walked into her territory uninvited. And I realized something else. To them, my success wasn't a relief, it was an inconvenience. They didn't want me to need them, but they definitely didn't want me thriving without them either. Dinner was dry chicken, awkward silences, and sideways glances. My dad was quiet, as always, letting the tension rise like steam over mashed potatoes. No one asked about my job, or my apartment, or how I'd been, but Lauren, she couldn't resist. "So, is that like a lease or—" "It's paid for," I said simply, meeting her gaze. She looked away. The rest of the meal passed with the low hum of passive aggression and clinking silverware. When I left that night, I sat in the driver's seat for a full minute before turning the key. I should have felt small. I should have been angry, but all I felt was calm. Because for the first time, I saw my family for what they were. Not cruel, not evil, just deeply invested in keeping me smaller than I'd grown. And I wasn't shrinking anymore. 5 months later, I returned, not as a visitor, but with news I knew would land like a thunderclap. This time, I rang the doorbell. My mother answered in a robe, her expression caught somewhere between confusion and disapproval. "Emily," she said slowly, eyeing my sundress and tote bag, "this is a surprise. Dinner's still at 7, right?" I asked sweetly. Her brow twitched. "Yes, of course." Inside, the dining room hadn't changed. Same beige walls, same picture frames with Lauren's graduation photos front and center. If I was in any, they were tucked somewhere behind a candle. Lauren was already at the table, spooning salad onto her plate with the practiced indifference of someone expecting the night to revolve around her. Dad sat at the head, flipping through a mail stack like it was more interesting than any of us. Typical. The first 15 minutes were filled with small talk so forced it could have cracked teeth. "How's work, Lauren?" I asked, already knowing. She flicked her hair. "Taking a break from all that, doing some self-care." Mom nodded approvingly. "She's prioritizing her well-being. That takes maturity." I chewed a piece of bread slowly and waited. Let them talk. Let them feel comfortable. Let the silence before the storm stretch long enough to matter. When Dad finally looked up from his mail, I set my napkin down, calmly, deliberately. "I bought a house." The room stilled. "A what?" Lauren said, blinking like I'd spoken another language. "A house," I repeated. "On the lake, 3 bedrooms, big windows, lots of light." You could have heard the wine in Mom's glass freeze. "You bought what kind of house?" she asked, trying to smile but failing. Her voice pitched up a full octave. "I closed last week. I've been saving for a long time." Dad cleared his throat loudly, the kind of cough he used when words didn't come easy. "Well, that's big." Lauren didn't say anything at first. She just stabbed a tomato slice like it had personally offended her. "Seems excessive," she muttered. I turned to her, letting my voice drop just enough. "Funny, no one said that when you got a Lexus for doing absolutely nothing." Her eyes narrowed, but I didn't flinch. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. "I worked for this," I said softly. "Every late night, every second job, every sacrifice." Mom dropped her fork. "You're being dramatic again." There it was, the old line, worn and ready, but this time it didn't land. "Actually," I said, standing up and grabbing my tote, "I brought photos." I pulled out my phone and laid it gently on the table. One swipe, and there it was, my lake house. Pale blue siding, a wraparound porch, and the glimmer of water just beyond the backyard. "You bought this?" Dad asked, leaning forward, suddenly interested. "Yes." Silence. Then Mom said, "It's a lot for one person, don't you think?" "No," I said. "It's exactly right for the person I've become," Lauren scoffed. "Are you trying to prove something?" "No," I said, looking her dead in the eye. "I already did." They didn't clap. They didn't say congratulations. But I didn't need them to. Because the way my mother's lips pinched, the way my father fiddled with his watch band, the way Lauren couldn't even pretend to be happy for me, all of it told me one thing. I had stepped beyond their control, and they didn't know what to do with me anymore. So I smiled. I passed the bread basket, and I let them sit there in the new silence, the kind where I wasn't asking for permission to exist. Moving day felt like waking up inside someone else's dream, until I remembered I'd built every bit of it myself. The house was still mostly empty, save for the essentials and an avalanche of cardboard boxes, but the smell of fresh paint and lemon oil meant it already felt like mine. I'd chosen every color myself, soft sage for the living room, clean white for the kitchen, and a stormy blue for the bedroom I'd always imagined waking up in. That first night, I slept on an air mattress beneath the stars because I hadn't figured out the curtains yet and didn't care. The lake shimmered just outside my window like a secret only I knew how to appreciate. I didn't miss the old noise, the sighs, the expectations. The way every decision I made used to feel like a family debate. Now it was just me, and for once that didn't feel lonely. It felt earned. A week later, I hosted my housewarming party. It wasn't fancy. Just some fairy lights strung across the porch railings, a jazz playlist humming low in the background, and paper lanterns bobbing in the breeze. My new coworkers came, laughing and swapping stories over wine. A few neighbors stopped by with cookies and awkward smiles. Maya from HR, who'd quickly become my work best friend, brought a potted fern and an off-key singing toast that made me laugh harder than I had in months. And then, right on cue, my parents arrived. Late, of course. Mom walked in first, holding a covered dish like it was a peace offering and a critique in one. Dad trailed behind, already eyeing the ceiling trim. "This is nice," Mom said, setting her casserole on the counter with a tone that suggested it wasn't. Dad nodded slowly. "Seems spacious." I smiled, choosing not to let the undercurrent tug me down. "Thanks for coming." And then came the moment I'd anticipated, dreaded, and weirdly needed, Lauren. She walked through the front door like it owed her rent, wearing oversized sunglasses and carrying a tiny purse that matched nothing but attitude. Her eyes scanned the room, the people, the twinkle lights, and finally the lake view through the glass doors. She stopped cold. I saw her jaw clench before she said a word. "Wow," she muttered. "So this is where your student loans went?" "No loans," I replied. "I worked, saved, budgeted." Her laugh was tight. "Good for you." But it wasn't a compliment. Later, while people mingled on the back deck, I found her standing alone by the railing, arms crossed, gazing at the water like it had personally insulted her. I walked over. "You okay?" She didn't turn. "It's just weird." "What is?" "You being this," I waited. "This together, this successful, I mean." She finally looked at me, eyes glossy. "We used to share a bunk bed, Emily. You always cried about everything, and now you have a whole house." I blinked. "Lauren, I'm still me. I just worked hard, that's all." She shook her head. "No, it's not all. It's like everything works out for you now, and I can't even get an interview." There it was, the weight behind every snide remark, every rolled eye, every dig dressed as a joke. Envy. I reached out gently, resting a hand on the railing between us. "You could ask me for help, you know." Her eyes flashed. "I'm not a charity case." "I never said you were." She turned and walked back inside without another word. The rest of the night faded out with clinking glasses, goodbye hugs, and the soft hush of footsteps leaving my porch. But that moment stuck with me. Because while everyone else seemed to see this house as a milestone, Lauren saw it as proof she'd fallen behind. As my parents left, Mom lingered at the door. "You really should have waited, bought something smaller. It's a lot for one person." I smiled. "It's just enough." She didn't respond, just pulled her cardigan tighter and followed Dad to the car. When the last light flicked off, I stood barefoot on my porch, staring at the lake under moonlight. My house was quiet, but my heart was full. They didn't celebrate me, not really, but I didn't need them to anymore. They showed up. They saw it, and now they couldn't unsee it. Costa Rica was paradise. 7 days of ocean mist in my hair, mango smoothies for breakfast, and no one calling my name unless they were offering fresh towels or pineapple slices. I hiked through rainforests, zip-lined through clouds, and let my phone stay on airplane mode for longer than was probably responsible. For once, the world didn't need me, and I didn't need it. I came back glowing, mentally, emotionally, even physically. There's a kind of calm that sinks into your skin after you've stood under a waterfall without worrying about email. My flight landed late Sunday night. I drove home from the airport in a taxi, watching familiar streets blur by through the window, my bag tucked beside me, heart full. But the moment I saw my house, my chest tightened. There was a porch light on. I always left it off when I traveled, always. Maybe I'd forgotten. Maybe the timer was glitching. But as we pulled closer, I saw something else. Shoes. Lauren's platform sandals. My dad's worn-out sneakers, right by the front door. I didn't speak as I paid the driver and got out. My suitcase thudded against the porch steps as I stood there, staring at my own house like it was a stranger. I rang the doorbell, no answer. I unlocked the door and pushed it open. My first thought wasn't panic, it was confusion. The lights were on in the kitchen. The scent of spaghetti lingered in the air, Lauren's favorite midnight comfort meal. My father's recliner, yes, the same one he'd had since I was in high school, was now in my living room, right where my velvet reading chair used to be. It was gone. I stepped inside slowly, my keys still in my hand like a weapon. The hallway runner had been shifted. New scuffs marked the hardwood, and I could hear the television. Someone had paused it mid-movie like they'd just stepped away for a snack. Then the creak of a door upstairs. Lauren's voice drifted down the staircase. Where's the hairdryer? I told Mom to pack it." She stopped halfway down when she saw me. "Oh," she said flatly. "You're back early." I stared at her, still wearing my old college sweatshirt like it was hers. She had a bowl of popcorn in one hand and the nerve to look annoyed. "What are you doing here?" Lauren blinked. "Living." I turned slowly toward the kitchen as I heard another chair scrape. My mother appeared, wiping her hands on a dish towel like she belonged there. "Emily, don't be so dramatic. We needed a place." My voice came out tight. "What are you talking about?" She glanced toward the living room. "We sold the old house last week. It was time. Too much upkeep and the market was strong." My heart stopped. "You sold your house?" "Yes, and since your place has space." "It's not your place," I snapped. My father walked in at that moment, holding a beer like it was just another evening. "You left the key under the mat," he said. "We figured that meant it was okay. That key was for emergencies." "Well, we had one," Lauren muttered. I took a step back. The kitchen island felt colder than usual, or maybe it was just me. I looked at the fridge, new magnets, their grocery list, a photo of Lauren with her dog. "Did you move in?" My mom sighed like I was being difficult. "It just makes sense. One house, one set of bills. It's smarter." "No one asked me." "We're family," she said, with a tone that implied I should be grateful. Lauren yawned and sauntered back toward the stairs. "We kept your room the same. You can have it back." My hands were trembling. My vacation tan, my fresh peace, my carefully rebuilt boundaries, everything collapsed in one breath. They hadn't just crossed a line, they'd bulldozed it. And now they were standing in the middle of my sanctuary like they owned it. I didn't say another word. I walked to the guest bathroom, washed my face with trembling fingers, and stared at my own reflection. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel powerless. I felt clear. They'd invaded the wrong house. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I couldn't, but because I wouldn't, not under a roof where everything familiar had been quietly replaced. I sat at the kitchen island until 2 a.m., staring at the new magnet on my fridge that said, "Bless this mess." I hadn't bought it. They had. It was the smallest thing in the house, and yet somehow the most offensive. By morning, I still hadn't spoken, but my family acted like we were playing house. Mom cooked eggs like it was her kitchen, humming to herself as if she hadn't hijacked the one place I'd ever felt at peace. Lauren came down barefoot, scrolling her phone, and dropped onto a stool next to me like we were roommates in some sitcom. "You're quiet," she said. "Jet lag." I didn't answer. She pulled a fork from the drawer, the one I'd bought in a thrift shop 3 towns over, and started eating off my plate like it was hers. Finally, I spoke, my voice low, even. "You need to leave." Lauren froze mid-bite. Mom turned from the stove, spatula in hand. "Excuse me? All of you, you don't live here. This isn't your home." Dad walked in just then, holding his morning paper. "We already explained. We consolidated. That means—" "No," I said, sharper now. "You decided. You did not explain." Mom looked wounded, like I'd scolded a child. "Sweetheart, this is temporary. We needed a place while we figure out what's next. It's not a big deal." "It's a huge deal," I snapped. "You didn't ask, you just took. You didn't even wait until I came back." Lauren rolled her eyes. "Oh, please, we're family. Stop acting like we're strangers." "That's exactly what you're acting like," I said, staring at her. "Strangers don't treat people they love this way." Dad folded his paper like it gave him some kind of authority. "This house has room. We thought you'd be happy we were all together again." "Together," I repeated. "You didn't even tell me you sold your house." Mom waved that off. "It happened fast. The buyers wanted a short close, and we didn't want to bother you on vacation." "How convenient." Lauren crossed her arms. "God, you're always so uptight. We cleaned. We watered your plants. You're welcome, by the way." You changed the layout of my living room. We upgraded it, she snapped. Dad's recliner is way more comfortable than that overpriced bookshelf chair. My breath caught. You replaced my furniture. It didn't match the vibe, she said, like I was the unreasonable one. I turned to my mother. And you just let this happen. She didn't flinch. It's just a chair, Emily. No, I said quietly. It's a line and you all crossed it. The room fell silent. Dad sighed like the adult in the room dealing with a moody teenager. You're overreacting. This is what families do. We share, we adjust. No, I said. You invaded. Lauren looked offended. Wow, okay. Then maybe we should have just let the house sit empty while you frolicked in Costa Rica. I left a note to water the plants, I snapped. Not to redecorate and move in. You left the Wi-Fi password, Mom added, as if that sealed her argument. That was for emergencies. Well, this is one. My jaw tightened. An emergency is a broken pipe, not a lifestyle choice. Mom sat down, suddenly softening her tone. Emily, you're being rigid. We're family. This is all of ours. No, it's mine. I bought this house. I paid every mortgage payment. I chose the paint, the windows, the furniture. You didn't help. You didn't even ask. Lauren scoffed. You act like you built it from bricks and blood. I act like someone who earned her peace. Dad stood now, clearly done playing nice. You think this little house makes you better than us. I think it made me free. That did it. Lauren stood abruptly and pushed back her stool. Well, I'm not going anywhere. I already unpacked. I stared at her. You didn't ask, and you don't get to stay here just because you want to. She smirked, voice dripping with sarcasm. What are you going to do? Call the cops on your own family? I said nothing. Because in that moment, I didn't have to. She was already telling on herself. They had no plans to leave. I didn't cry until I got to my car, not because I wasn't hurt. I was, deeply. But I'd learned long ago that crying in front of people who use your tears as proof you're unstable only gives them more power. So I smiled thinly, turned away from the chaos in my kitchen, walked out the front door, and didn't stop moving until I was inside my car with the windows rolled up. Then the sob hit me. It wasn't loud. Just one of those silent, shaking, gut-deep cries that doesn't even feel like it belongs to you. Like someone else is grieving through your body and all you can do is endure it. I sat there for maybe 20 minutes, long enough for the sun to start slinking behind the trees, long enough to gather myself. And then I did the most undramatic thing I'd ever done. I opened Google and searched, how to legally evict family from your house. The answers weren't satisfying. I'd have to serve written notice, file papers, wait. But what I could do right then was change the locks, and so I did. The locksmith arrived at 9 a.m. sharp the next day, cheerful and oblivious. He thought I was dealing with ex-roommates or a bad Airbnb guest. I didn't correct him. When he was done, I stood by the front door and held the new keys in my hand like they were sacred, like they were armor. And for a moment, I felt okay again, until I came home that evening and found my father's recliner back in its usual spot, and my family in the kitchen, acting like I'd never left. Lauren was on the couch in fuzzy socks, scrolling through TV apps. Mom was wiping down counters she hadn't even used. Dad was eating grapes out of my favorite bowl. What are you doing here? I asked, breath caught in my throat. They barely looked up. You changed the locks, Mom said, disapproving. That was childish. How did you get in? Your father called a locksmith, she said, like it was obvious. It's still our address. No, I snapped. It's not, Lauren yawned. You think we wouldn't come back? I hoped you wouldn't. Well, here we are, she said, flipping through channels. Missed you. I turned to Dad. You had no right. He shrugged. You locked us out. That was aggressive. We had to respond. You broke into my house. We didn't break in. We re-entered. Huge difference. I walked to the fridge, too angry to speak. Inside were things I hadn't bought, organic juices, fancy deli meats, 3 flavors of hummus. They'd stocked the kitchen like it was a vacation rental. What is all this? Mom smiled, proud. We went grocery shopping. Thought we'd make the place more comfortable. You were always so. Minimalist. You mean self-sufficient. Cold, Lauren muttered. I opened the pantry, more new things. Imported snacks, herbal teas, protein powders. I spotted an invoice on the counter from a spa in town. I picked it up. 2 full-body massages, a facial, aromatherapy. That was for us, Mom said lightly. You don't want us to be stressed, do you? I stared at her. Who's paying for this? She tilted her head. We've been using the card you left on the fridge, the one with the house account. I felt the world tilt. That card was for utilities. Well, technically Spa Wellness is a utility, Lauren joked. I didn't laugh. Dad wandered over to the couch, kicking up his feet like a king returning to his throne. This place is great, Em. You really outdid yourself. Get out, I said. No one moved. I'm serious. You'll get over it, Mom said. It's just a transition. Soon you'll see we're saving money, spending more time as a family. She reached for my hand like she was offering me some wholesome resolution. I pulled away. You're not here because you want to be with me, I said. You're here because I did the work and you want the reward. Lauren smirked. So now success makes you bitter, that's sad. No, I said. What's sad is thinking love means entitlement. You didn't ask, you just helped yourselves, like always. Watch your tone, Dad snapped. No, I said again louder. You don't get to tell me how to feel in the house I paid for. You don't get to rewrite this, not anymore. But they didn't leave. They didn't even flinch. And that's when I realized they weren't squatting. They were settling in, and they had no plans to go anywhere. I knew something was off the second I turned into the driveway. There were too many cars. Loud music pulsed from somewhere inside, vibrating the windows of my own house. The porch light flickered like it was overwhelmed, and empty drink cans littered the front steps like breadcrumbs leading to a bad decision. I parked slowly, my stomach already tightening. This wasn't a misunderstanding. This wasn't forgetfulness or a surprise dinner. This was a full-blown party, thrown in my house without my consent. I stepped over a pile of red Solo cups on the porch and pushed open the door. The smell hit me first. Beer, cheap cologne, perfume, sweat. Someone had burned incense, like that could disguise what was clearly a disaster in motion. My living room looked like it had been ransacked by a group of underwhelming Instagram influencers. People I didn't recognize lounged on my couch. One couple was dancing in the hallway to music blasting from a Bluetooth speaker. My throw pillows were on the floor, one of them soaked. I didn't want to know with what. I froze in the doorway, hands shaking. This wasn't just disrespect. This was erasure. And there in the center of the chaos stood Lauren, laughing, drink in hand, surrounded by people who cheered when she raised her glass. Like she was the hostess, like she owned the place. I stepped forward, heart pounding. My voice, when it came out, was sharp, clear. Lauren! She turned casually, the fake lashes on her lids fluttering like nothing was wrong. Oh, you're home. What is this? I asked, barely holding it together. She tilted her head, unbothered. It's just a little get-together. Chill. There are 20 people in my house. Relax, it's Friday. You didn't ask, you didn't tell me, you trashed my home. She sipped her drink. It's not trashed, it's lived in. That phrase pushed something too far. I stepped into the kitchen. My marble countertops were sticky. Someone had spilled cranberry juice or wine across the floor and left it. Beer bottles lined the sink. My favorite ceramic serving bowl was cracked down the middle and used as a chip dish. Who are these people? Friends, Lauren said, shrugging. Networking kind of, you wouldn't get it. I turned to the hallway. The guest bathroom door was closed, laughter echoing behind it. Upstairs, I could hear music pounding from my bedroom. Is someone in my room? I demanded. Lauren blinked, then waved vaguely. Probably, it's just a room. That did it. Everyone out, now. The music didn't stop. Someone laughed. I grabbed the speaker and yanked the cord from the wall. Silence slammed into the room like a dropped plate. People turned. One guy raised his hands like I was the problem. Whoa, what's your deal? I own this house, I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. And none of you were invited, get out. Lauren sighed dramatically. You're being uptight again, it's not that deep. I faced her. You've lied, disrespected me, treated my home like a frat house. It's not just your home, she snapped. We're family. That doesn't give you the right to abuse me. God, Emily, you've changed. I had to. One by one, her guests filtered out, some apologizing under their breath, most too drunk to care. A few glared at me like I was ruining the fun. I didn't respond. I stood in the doorway until the last one left. Lauren stayed planted on the couch like she was daring me to push her. She looked around the room and smirked. Well, I hope you're happy. Everyone thinks you're insane now. I walked over to the wall, pulled the circuit breaker for the living room, and shut off the lights. Her smirk faltered. You don't get to humiliate me, I said. Not in my space, not anymore. She stood. You're acting like you're better than everyone. I'm acting like someone with boundaries. She rolled her eyes and grabbed her purse. Whatever, you'll regret this. I didn't respond. I just stood in the dark, surrounded by the ruins of my quiet life, heart pounding, jaw set. This wasn't my family being clueless. This was them choosing to ignore me, choosing to take what wasn't theirs. And for the first time in a long time, I wasn't just angry. I was done. I didn't say a word the next morning. Not when I passed my dad in the kitchen making toast like nothing had happened. Not when Lauren dragged herself downstairs in sweatpants and sunglasses, grumbling about a hangover from hell. Not even when Mom asked, without irony, if I could pick up more almond milk on my way home from work. I just nodded, smiled, and walked out the front door like I wasn't seconds from ending the entire charade. Because by then I already knew. I was selling the house. I didn't need a confrontation. I didn't need closure. I didn't need them to understand why. I just needed out. That afternoon, I pulled into the parking garage at work, sat in my car, and Googled realtors in my area. I picked one with good reviews, a firm tone in her bio, and the kind of smile that said she didn't tolerate nonsense. "Hi," I said when she answered. "I'm ready to list my home, quietly, no for sale sign." She understood immediately. We met the next day at a coffee shop downtown. I brought the deed, photos, the inspection report. She asked a few questions about the layout and location, then leaned back in her chair and smiled. "This'll go fast," she said. "Perfect," I replied. I didn't tell her the story. I didn't mention the nights I cried on the floor of a bedroom that didn't feel like mine anymore. I didn't talk about the broken ceramic bowl, the lock my dad had overridden, the party Lauren threw like she was the homeowner. Because none of that mattered now. What mattered was freedom. That week, I boxed up my things, not loudly, not in full view. Just a little each night after everyone had gone to bed. Socks and sweaters, framed certificates, notebooks, my grandmother's earrings. I left the furniture. Let them sit in it, soak it in. Think it was theirs. It made the ending easier. Maya, my friend from work, offered me her guest room before I even asked. She didn't press for details. Just handed me a key and told me she liked having someone to split pizza with on weeknights. By Friday, I had everything I needed packed into my trunk. Still, I walked through the house one last time. The living room smelled like someone's expensive shampoo and incense. The kitchen had a stack of dishes in the sink. My dad's recliner had a new throw blanket on it. My mother's planner sat on the dining table. And Lauren's makeup bag was open on the bathroom counter like she planned to stay forever. I almost laughed, because they really thought I'd keep absorbing it. Keep sacrificing space, money, sanity, just because we shared DNA. They forgot something. I'd built this house, alone, which meant I could leave it. Alone. That night I didn't say goodnight, I just left, moved in with Maya, paid the staging fee, set the listing live. 2 offers came in before the week ended. My realtor called me with a grin in her voice. "You want to counter or take the full ask?" "Take it," I said. "I'm ready." And I was. I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel like I was betraying anyone. Because the truth is, when someone builds a cage inside your home and calls it family, the only way out is to burn the blueprint. So I did, quietly, completely. They didn't see it coming. That morning, the sun rose like any other Florida day, hot, slow, bright. But inside the lake house, it was about to storm. The new owners were scheduled to arrive at 10 a.m. I got there at 9:30. My key still worked. Funny, considering how little that had meant when they barged their way in. The moment I stepped inside, it felt like breaking into my own past. The faint smell of my mother's rose oil diffuser clashed with the memory of citrus and sage I used to light after work. My kitchen counters were cluttered with breakfast dishes. My sister's flat iron lay across the dining table like it belonged there. I didn't speak. I just walked to the center of the room and set the envelope down on the counter, labeled, deed copy and keys. That's when my mother came around the corner. She froze, spatula in hand, wearing the expression of someone halfway through a peaceful morning. "Emily, what are you doing here so early?" I didn't answer. I heard Lauren's voice upstairs. "Where's the coffee? Mom, did you buy creamer?" Dad emerged from the hallway wearing a t-shirt with a local golf logo on it. "You need something." I turned to face them fully. You all need to leave now, Mom blinked. Excuse me. The new owners are arriving at 10. The silence that followed could have frozen fire. Lauren stomped down the stairs. New owners of what? This house. Dad's brow furrowed. What do you mean? I sold it, I said simply. It's no longer ours. The air snapped. Lauren's voice cracked first. You what? I sold the house. It closed yesterday. Cash offer. They're moving in today. You're joking, Mom whispered, but her voice was flat, like deep down she knew I wasn't. I crossed my arms. You made yourselves comfortable in something that was never yours. I just made it official. You sold our home. Dad's voice was rising now, incredulous. No, I sold my home that you broke into, took over, ruined. Lauren lunged toward me. You can't just kick us out. We live here. No, you squatted here. Big difference. She looked at our father like he'd swoop in and stop this. But he was frozen, mouth parted in disbelief. You really did it, Mom said, stepping closer. You're actually doing this. Yes. The doorbell rang, right on time. They all turned toward the sound like it was the Grim Reaper himself. I didn't move. I let the new couple, middle-aged, sweet, and blissfully unaware, walk up the porch steps with smiles and a bouquet. The man knocked once, then opened the screen door. Hi, we're the Harmons. We just wanted to meet the seller before we get the moving truck in. Beautiful place you've got here, Lauren screeched. Get out, you can't just walk into someone's house. The woman frowned. We're the buyers. You're not welcome here. Lauren shouted. Emily, the man said gently, are they supposed to be here? They're trespassing, I said. I'd appreciate it if you called the police. That lit the fuse. Dad's face turned red. You called strangers to take our families home. You're really doing this to us. Mom started pacing. How dare you, after everything we've done for you, after raising you, this is how you repay us. You raised me to believe boundaries were selfish. That love means sacrifice, but now I know better. Lauren grabbed a pillow from the couch and threw it at the floor. You ruined everything. I fixed it, I said. I just didn't fix it in a way that included you. The Harmons stepped back onto the porch, awkward but firm. I'm going to call the police, the husband said calmly. We were told this would be vacant. Please do, I replied. They've been refusing to leave for weeks. That's when Dad lost it. You don't do this to your own blood. I walked past him without another word, opened the trunk of my car, and pulled out a rolled-up tent from Walmart, still in its packaging. I handed it to him like it weighed nothing. Family sticks together, right? I said softly. You'll figure it out. Then I got into my car and drove off. In the rearview mirror, I saw them all standing on the lawn, my mother still yelling, Lauren in full meltdown, my father holding the tent like it was an insult, the Harmons dialing the cops. And I didn't feel triumphant. I felt free. The call came 2 hours later. Officer Daniels, calm and matter-of-fact, confirmed what I already knew deep in my bones. They've vacated the property, ma'am. There were no arrests, just a lot of noise. You'll want to follow up with the buyers, but it's been resolved. Resolved. That word echoed. It didn't feel like victory. It felt like silence after a storm. A week later, the Harmons sent a thank you note. You saved us a nightmare, they wrote. We love the porch swing. I smiled reading it, knowing they'd never guess the weight that swing once held. I didn't drive past the lake house again. I didn't need to. Because I wasn't retreating, I was becoming. 12 months later, I stood on the rooftop of my new condo downtown. 22 stories above the mess I'd crawled out of, wind in my hair, the city glowing around me like an open book. No one had keys to this place but me. No one left dishes in the sink. No one called my choices dramatic. No one shifted the furniture or claimed my victories, just me. And it was enough. I'd launched a foundation by then, Code Bloom, a mentorship program for girls in tech. I still remembered what it felt like to be 18, broke, invisible, and underestimated. I wanted to be the voice I never had, and people noticed. Grants came in. Interviews followed. For once, being called ambitious didn't sting, it sang. Then, one Saturday morning, my phone buzzed. A familiar number, my mother's. I let it ring once, twice, then answered. Emily, she said, soft. We wanted to check in. I waited. We're staying with friends. It's been hard. Your father had to pick up warehouse shifts. Lauren's, she's figuring things out. I said nothing. Listen, she added, tone hesitant. We're thinking of buying again, something small, a new start, but we'd need some help. There it was. I took a breath. I'll loan you the money. Her relief crackled through the line. Thank you, sweetie, I knew. But, I interrupted, there will be a contract, monthly payments, interest. If you miss a deadline, it's over. Silence. I'm not doing this to punish you, I added. I'm doing it to protect me. Another pause, then finally understood. A week later, we signed the paperwork. Lauren was there, too. She barely made eye contact. Her hair was darker now, her voice quieter. She worked part-time at a grocery store, she said. Just for now. When she finally looked at me, it wasn't with anger. It was something closer to regret. I didn't gloat. I didn't needle. I just nodded. Because sometimes growth isn't loud. It's not a speech. It's not a final slam of the door. Sometimes it's just knowing that when someone tries to steal your light, you build a new fire somewhere they can't reach. Sometimes I still wake up expecting noise. The clatter of passive-aggressive pans in the kitchen. The slam of a door Lauren forgot to close softly. The silence that somehow spoke louder than words ever could. But all I hear now are birds outside the window and the quiet hum of the espresso machine I bought just because I wanted to. Not because anyone needed something from me. I've learned that peace isn't a place, it's a choice. It's saying no without guilt. It's locking your door without explaining why. It's knowing you can love people and still love yourself more. I see my parents occasionally. Dinners at neutral restaurants. Conversations that stay surface deep. There's no yelling anymore. No demands, just distance and a mutual understanding of what won't be repeated. Lauren hasn't asked to move in again. Sometimes she texts. Small things, a funny meme, a memory from childhood. She never says sorry, not directly. But the space in her messages, the careful pauses, the absence of blame, feels like a new language. And I can live with that. Because I didn't go through all of this for revenge. I did it to reclaim my life. To become someone who doesn't shrink when the doorbell rings. Who doesn't apologize for breathing too loud in her own home. Who believes that no matter what you were taught, survival is not the same as living. Now I live. And that, more than anything, is mine. If you made it to the end of Emily's journey, thank you. What part hit you the hardest? Drop a comment. And if you've ever had to reclaim your space, physically or emotionally, know this, you're not alone. And you're allowed to start over.